So, Rita and James, Australia yet again, under Penny Wong, has embarrassed this nation, disgraced this nation, siding against Israel and with Israel's enemies, Rita.
Yes, decided not to vote with our great allies, Israel and America, decided not to abstain, decided to vote against our great allies and effectively award Hamas for the murderous behaviour we have seen October 7 and since then and before then. They maintain that this is not rewarding Hamas. In fact, Penny Wong was at great pains to explain this is the opposite of what Hamas wants. Yes, Hamas wants to eradicate entirety of Israel. They want every Jew gone. But it is still rewarding them. It's not giving them everything they want, but it's giving them more than they already had.
Let's have a listen to this attempt at justification by the Australian Foreign Minister.
I want to say this is a clear rejection of the goals and methods of Hamas. A two-state solution, both Israel and Palestine, is the opposite of what Hamas wants. Hamas does not want peace, and it does not want long-term security for the state of Israel.
How on earth is this a rejection of Hamas? I mean, coming from, Penny Wong, I think we can understand that you can make these sort of moral backflips, but it is unbelievable to listen to this nonsense. I mean, the only way that you can go about talking about any sort of two-state solution is to say that first, Hamas must be eliminated. They have absolutely zero place in any future Palestinian governance organization, set up, whatever they wind up doing. So two states, fine, but get rid of Hamas first. But I've got some breaking news here. The Washington Post has just reported in the last few minutes that the Biden administration, and we'll be talking about them a bit later on in the program, working urgently to stave off a full-scale Israeli invasion of Rafah, is offering Israel valuable intelligence on Hamas targets, where their military are, where the leaders are, and where their tunnels are. So the Biden administration has been holding back intelligence from Israel. They never thought Israel would press the case so far to go into Gaza and get rid of Hamas, and they always thought that, well, we don't need to give them this information. The Biden administration stands accused now of protecting Hamas and Iran. They've played this double game from the very start of their administration. This goes back to the Obama days, and Joe Biden, whose side are you on? This is the urgent question everybody needs to ask right now.
I think we all know Joe Biden doesn't know what day it is, let alone whose side he's on.
But
this is the continuation of that Obama administration. Whoever's pulling the Biden
puppet strings.
I mean, he is a puppet. He would have no idea. He would have no decision-making here. But the bureaucracy, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, it is that continuation of the Obama regime. And we know the Obama regime was fully invested in Iran, doing the Iranian deal, emboldening Iran. And we had a few years of respite from that under Trump, but they've gone back to it. And this is why we're in this situation.
And there is real serious concerns about who is even in the Biden administration making foreign policy. You know that the special envoy on Iran has had his security clearance revoked because of concerns about, well, we don't know exactly what yet, but I mean, the fact that Iran has had such a massive intelligence effort trying to penetrate the United States, and we see this with their influence operations that play out on campuses and elsewhere, this is really sinister stuff here,
Totally. The reality is Israel has to defeat Hamas, has to go in there, has to take out the entire terror network and finish it for all time. Only then will there ever be peace in the Middle East, once the terrorists are destroyed. And the idea that the Biden administration is running around, we saw earlier those various top brass saying, oh, we think maybe they could have this weapon but not that weapon. Now they're trading which bits of intelligence they're going to give. Absolute disgrace. Donald Trump has come out and he said very, very clearly that the entire Biden administration's approach, not only to Israel but throughout the Middle East, is an absolute disgrace. Let's go back to Australia. Here's Penny Wong again, trying further double flips. I mean, she should be in the circus doing on a trapeze, the way she manages to twist the facts around. The reality is, folks, Australia over the weekend on Friday has voted in the United Nations to push towards the recognition of Palestine as a state. Here's Penny Wong trying to justify this. This goes against everything. This is rewarding terrorism, as Tony Abbott has pointed out. And Scott Morrison has come out with a terrific statement saying this is the most hostile act by any Australian government in history towards Israel. Well done, Scott Morrison. Absolutely true. Here's Penny Wong again, backflipping, doing whatever she does.
This vote is not about whether Australia recognises Palestine. We will do that when we think the time is right. What we would say, and what I do say, is Australia no longer believes that recognition can only come at the end of a peace process. It could occur as part of a peace process.
This is insane. This is completely
does she know
insane.
What she voted on?
It makes no sense whatsoever. She says we're not voting for a recognition of Palestine, of the Palestinian state, but that's what you just voted for. And along with Iran and Tajikistan and China and Russia, that's who you voted for. Canada didn't vote for it. The UK didn't vote for it. Even Papua New Guinea didn't vote for it. Yet Australia has sided with the worst of the worst. This is a complete rejection, if you like, of our friendship with Israel, and it is a rewarding of terror and a rewarding to Hamas, encouraging them to go forward. Now, this is a disgrace. Australia stands utterly embarrassed. I'll be talking more about that later. James.
Well, I was just going to say, it really occurs to me here that when you listen to the way that they play this double game here, Penny Wong's playing the same sort of thing here.
Yep.
Put aside all the domestic political concerns which are driving a lot of this Labor policy right now. We can talk about that later. But the other thing, too, is that it is so ironic to me that so many people on the left side of politics love to pay lip service to the idea of democracy being under threat, the West being under threat, Russia, China, whatever. But when it comes to Israel, and here we have a democracy, a liberal democracy that is under existential threat, and a friend of ours, under existential threat by a murderous, totalitarian, thuggish regime with the strings being pulled in Iran, a murderous, thuggish, theocratic regime that hates not just Jews, but the entire West, including democracies like ours. The rhetoric on other issues where democracy and West and the freedom is under threat really falls completely flat. This blind spot that they have on Israel. And I think it comes from the left, not only that there's this anti-Semitism on the left, but also that throughout the left, there's a real rejection of the Western Enlightenment project. They don't like it. They don't trust it.
Of course
and,
they don't.
They want to see...
and I'll be talking about that a little bit after the break. But... of course, there are domestic considerations. There are a lot more Muslim voters, and they're often concentrated in seats held by Labor. They're worried about a backlash there. We saw similar concerns in the UK. But I think it goes deeper than that with Labor and the left in general. This is in their DNA. They do have this anti-West sentiment, this neo-Marxist mind frame where they look at everything.
They lapped it up in university, Rita.
And that's why this shouldn't shock us. It might disappoint us, but it shouldn't shock us because this is who they are.
This is who they are. Josh Burns, the Jewish Labor Member of Parliament, has come out. So, Penny Wong, congratulations, Albo. Well done. You've managed to alienate and split left-wing Jews from the Labor Party. He's come out with a strong statement opposing the decision by Penny Wong, the vote by Australia in the United Nations. I say again, I've said it many times before, Labor, the Greens and the Teals are no friend of the Jews in this country. If you are a supporter of Israel, supporter of Judaism, Jewish connections to Judaism, whatever, you should not and must not be voting Teal, Green or Labor because they are not your friend, they are your enemy. Understand that clearly. That is why we have elections, and that is why this mob must be turfed out at the next election, along with the Teals.